First of all, what do you make of this decision? It seems like Queensland's starting to soften its position a little bit.
Well, I think it's a positive sign, but we've still had no official confirmation from the Queensland government on this. And so what worries me is that you've got these decrees from the Queensland Chief Health Officer, which started coming down on Friday and one on Saturday. And we still haven't heard from the Queensland government on this. And the border communities don't know what to make of it. On the one hand, they're celebrating, and you've got organisations like the Isolated Children's Parents Association putting out a press release and saying it's welcome. But now they're saying if it's true, it's welcome, but we're not too sure. And so we need some clarity from the Queensland government on this, and they need to bring this uncertainty to a close, because they've been putting out these decrees on a Friday. And what was happening on Friday? Well, we had Education Council, we had National Cabinet, and we still couldn't come to any concrete resolution to this border issue last Friday, yet they're able to pump out these health decrees on the same day. And my concern is that it's the new politics of COVID border closures, in that these children and their families are just pawns in a wider political game, and for the purpose of trying to save the skins of certain state governments. And that is very concerning for families, and the mental anguish and the toll that's being exacted on these young students is growing day by day. And so the parents and the kids up there are going, well, on the face of it, it's great news, but how come the Queensland government hasn't come out and clarified exactly what the position is and actually made a statement on it? That's what we want. We want a sign. And then going forward, we also need, I think, some sort of unified national approach on this, and that's going to have to be above the pay grade of education ministers. That's going to have to be something that premiers are going to have a look at, and hopefully the Prime Minister can herd them into a room and get this sorted. Because what the concern is out on the ground is that, OK, Queensland may hopefully have got this sorted for the upcoming school holidays, but what happens at Christmas, which is just around the corner? Are we going to be facing this again? And so what I'm going to do is convene a roundtable of all of these schools and parents' organisations to bring them all together so we can just fight as one unit on it, so that we don't have to go through this again at Christmas time, and that we can get a unified voice on it, and hopefully a unified approach from the state and territory governments. Because at the moment, if this exemption is true, that's good, but we've still got issues crossing from Victoria into New South Wales, where the kids have to fly through Sydney hotspots. Quarantining, getting from New South Wales to South Australia is still an issue. This hasn't gone away, yet the mental toll and the mental anguish continues to build.
So the premiers haven't said yes, but they also haven't said no. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we were talking about this on Friday, and we still haven't had any real concrete answers. We've got from Queensland the health decrees, which are floating around on websites in border communities in Queensland, but nothing official from the Queensland government. And still nothing in terms of a unified approach about how we're going to do this going forward, and how we still fix all of these other unjust anomalies which are going on out there.
Well, how do you do it, though? What would be your suggestion?
I've got parents ringing my office, and we've got parents in tears.
What would you suggest? I mean, I guess the premiers might argue here, and I don't know for sure, but I'm just guessing that they'll say, well, if I've got to open up the borders for this group of people, then I've got to open up the borders for this other group of people. I mean, you heard my introduction that suggested that if kids do go back home, they've just got to stay at home. Is that something that you would support, and not be able to leave that home and not have friends over as well?
Yeah, look, I think we just need to have a common sense, caring and practical approach on this, but it needs to be a unified approach, because, look, I've got all of the different border restrictions on a spreadsheet, and you need a PhD to work out what you can and can't do. We need some certainty and some uniformity, but one that actually works for these students and their parents, because at the moment we've got a mishmash of regulations. No one's really sure what's going on, and we just need some certainty and uniformity so that the anguish of these students and the parents can actually end. And we're not saying let's have open borders and open slather for boarding school students, but let's have a common sense and practical approach. And I think the Queensland exemption, I mean, if it's real and they're going to back it, I think that's a good approach. So let's work along those lines, but let's get a national approach to this and not have this continuing mishmash of regulations, which is just heaping uncertainty and anguish onto these boarding school families who have been separated now for many, many months and are just trying to get back together. Our federation should be able to do that in this day and age, surely to God.
Just to switch your portfolios to Minister assisting the Minister for Trade, I do want to ask you about the two Australian journalists who have now come home and they're okay, but it's speaking more broadly to the issue of tensions between Australia and China at the moment. Alexander Downer said last night that this is a new low. How do you describe it?
Well, look, it's concerning and disappointing is how I would describe it. I mean, I'm certainly very glad that the journos have made it out of there safely. It's disappointing that there are no Aussie journos left in China, and I think it's disappointing for China as well, because if you do want to promote better understanding and better relations between countries, I mean, having journos there to tell the local stories is an important way of doing it. But I'm glad they're safe. It is unfortunate that it has happened. And hopefully relations can improve. But I should say that we want a good and positive relationship with China. I mean, they're a very important trading partner, and the people-to-people relationships are still very strong, including the business relationships and the cultural relationships. They are our largest trading partner, and we want good relations with them. But having said that, you also need to just point out to everyone that foreign trade doesn't mean trading away your values. And I think that our position that we've taken is the correct one, and we've made our position very clear. But at the same time, we can still have good relations with countries, and especially with our important trading partners. But that doesn't come at the expense of national values and should never come at the expense of those.
Yeah.